I don't see Gloria. I know Councilor McIntosh was not joining us.
And Gloria texted me this morning, and she had another appointment come up, so she was not going to be able to join us as well.
Okay. Well, seeing that, I want to call the February meeting of the Forsyth County Tourism Development Authority meeting to order. Ceci, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
And I'm going to do better, I promise, this meeting than I started on a roll last time. So we will start by asking for an approval of the minutes from the January meeting.
Motion to approve minutes.
A motion? I saw Randy's hand go up for a second.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Or
Aye.
Aye.
okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to welcome, I'm happy to announce we have a full board. I want to welcome Kelly Brown to our illustrious team. Kelly is the general manager of the Kimpton Cardinal Hotel, a very important component of our industry in Forsyth County, and obviously one of the iconic buildings in our city. So Kelly, we welcome you to the team.
Thank you. Excited to be part of this team, and I hope you're all doing well. Looking forward to working with you.
Great, great. And so Dana's now a senior member, now that she's got a month under her belt. Just a couple of things that I have to cover. Ceci sent out a note with a committee structure. Now that we have a full board, Rich and I worked together to put together committee assignments. I hope everyone is comfortable with those. Committee is going to be very important here in the next couple of months. And I know we have Lou, and I know, Lou, I owe you a callback to just talk about your role and make sure you're in a good place and see what I can do to support you to lead that marketing effort. But I know you've dived in both feet, and I appreciate that. Speaking of committees, as we look at finishing the year, we'll need to activate the marketing committee, and I believe there's a meeting on the books for March. Rich and I talked about a finance committee meeting at the end of March. We need to start getting a handle on how we're going to finish the year as we prepare for FY22, believe it or not. So with that, I want to make a recommendation and see if there are any objections that we make March a committee month and adjourn the full board in April to hopefully work through the marketing plan and our budgeting issues. So if there's no objection to that, we'll make March a committee month and reconvene in the middle of April for a full board meeting. I would also like to make that April board meeting a hybrid meeting as things have softened a little bit and the numbers are trending in the right direction. As we've talked as a group, as we represent this industry of meetings and conventions, the more we can do in a face-to-face or hybrid model sends the right message. I do know some of our committee members for various reasons cannot do that, but we think we've seen at the Benton Convention Center a great setup to be able to do hybrid and virtual meetings. So I think that's the plan for March and April, if there are no objections. That's all I have. So I guess I will turn it over to Rich unless anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I was going to see if a city council member, Ben Rao, is on the call.
I'm here.
Okay, Ben. I'm sorry, Ben. Thank you.
Promoted him, Rich. You promoted him to city council.
Oh, what did I say?
Congratulations, Ben.
Did I not say assistant city manager?
No, I heard city council, but go ahead.
I'm sure he's glad he's assistant city manager.
Yes.
And we are too.
Ben, if you wouldn't mind, there was a finance committee meeting last week. If you could just give a quick update to the TDA in terms of how things are progressing with the the agreement with Embassy and maybe even more importantly to the board, obviously how we're progressing with respect to the refreshing of the lower level meeting space that will all be part of the Benton when that renovation is done. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you all. So last week at the City Council Finance Committee meeting, excuse me, I presented an action item that would amend the lease agreement that the city has with PM Meeting Venue LLC, which is the entity that we lease the Grand Pavilion Conference Center space to, but they're affiliated with the owners of the Embassy Suites. Basically, the goals for that amendment are twofold. One, for the city to recover the $800,000 in delinquent lease payments that are owed by PM Meeting Venue, and that amendment establishes a payment schedule for them to repay the city over the next few years, and then pay us kind of a lump sum towards the end of the lease that represents the payments that accrued during the pandemic, what we kind of call the pandemic payments. And then the second goal is to turn control and management of the city space back over to the city, so that going forward, city, working with HVMG, who's our operator for the Benton, that we would operate and manage our space. Looking back in 2004, when the city entered into a downtown development project with the owners of the then Marriott and Embassy Suites at the time, and we had one owner of both hotels. We had one manager of the Twin City Quarter. And you fast forward to the present, and now we have two owners of the hotels, and we have two managers of the city space. And so it just, I think, makes sense that the city try to bring management of all of our space under one management, and that's part of the goal of this lease amendment. So the Finance Committee recommended approval because the original lease was part of the downtown development project. The City Council will have to hold a public hearing that's scheduled for March 1st. And so they will hold that public hearing, and then they'll consider the item for approval at that time. In the meantime, the city project team for the refresh project, we are working with a local interior design firm. I think we're putting the final finishing touches on our specifications, and my hope is that we'll be able to put out the project for bid here within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Timeline-wise, that probably stretches us into May and June potentially. We know that we've got some events that are on the books in the Grand Pavilion and Conference Center in May. Not sure whether ultimately those groups will actually hold their events or at least need that space. But our hope is that we can at least start the bidding process here soon.
Then is the refresh on the space, is it including all the smaller meeting rooms in that space, or predominantly Grand Pavilion and the corridor space?
No, it'll be, excuse me again, it'll be focused on the Grand Pavilion and the Conference Center space, including the rooms. There's a couple of rooms that I think are being used more as storage, and so we probably won't invest a lot in refreshing those spaces, but we are looking at also the smaller meeting room spaces as well.
Okay. When would it be possible for our team to see the proposed refresh or renovation, if you will, from a design and decor perspective?
So the project team, we're trying to schedule a meeting with our interior designer here, I think within the next several days. I'll ask at that point if we're at a point where we can share, that type of information with the board.
Okay. And with respect to, we talked about rebranding or repositioning that space as part of the Benton, is it acceptable for our marketing team here at the TDA, working with Grant and his sales team at TCQ, to come back with some proposed ideas for renaming, if you will, the Grand Pavilion in keeping with the theme of the Benton?
I think that would be a great idea, Rich. I mean, I think that's how we've presented this lease amendment, you know, that we want to tie the Grand Pavilion and the Conference Center in with the Benton almost as an extension of the Benton. And so I really and truly, for me personally, I would hope that there's a point where we stop referring to it honestly as the Grand Pavilion and Conference Center, that it is something that is branded with the Benton.
It actually, Christian ran the numbers, Ben, and we will now with this, with all this contiguous space, the Benton Convention Center will now offer over 148,000 square feet of meeting space. So is how we are planning to position it as we move forward.
Very good.
Yeah, Rich, just speaking as my spot on the board, not necessarily as chair, I think that's just a wonderful advantage. And it's just another room in a series of rooms in the Benton Convention Center. So I know we talked about the interior design people trying to play up that continuation of theme. Right now, it's a very disparate change when you get up that tunnel. But for our customers to feel it as one, sell it as one, I think is going to be huge.
Agree.
So Ben, again, I don't know how we can promote you to whatever position, but we greatly appreciate you leading us through this, because this is an important part of what we do. And I know Marquita's going to have some work to do with Lou on the marketing side, but when you start getting carpet swatches and images and things like that from interior folks, that's the time to start spreading the word. I think that's exciting news. So happy to continue moving forward with that. So thank you.
Yes, we'll definitely share that information with you all.
Thank you, Ben. We kind of just ended on kind of a marketing note. Marquita, why don't we just turn it over to you and Lou, who is now the chair of the marketing committee. We did have a meeting with Lou last week in person, which was nice. And perhaps between Marquita and Lou, you can just give us an update on what the plans are for the marketing committee and tentative date for a meeting and those types of things.
Lou, you're muted. There you go.
Okay, thank you, Rich. We'll be glad to do that. And I'll kick it off here, Marquita. We're excited to have two new members on our marketing committee, Kelly Brown, who's new to the TDA board that John introduced and is on the call, and Shannon Stewart-Hill will be a non-board member joining the marketing committee, and she's on the Forsyth County Hotel Association board. So we're very excited to have both of them on the marketing committee, joining returners CJ and Dana and Aaron, and tell me one more, Marquita. Sarah, and Sarah's on the marketing committee. So great committee. We are looking forward to our first meeting of the year, which will be March 11th from 2 to 4. And really what we intend to do with this meeting is to give all of us, and especially also our new members, an overview and orientation of the marketing committee, where we've been in the past, previous campaigns, what the research is saying about where we should be marketing and what our target groups are, review the strategic plans, and previous campaigns. So I think it'll be a great meeting. It's always exciting to look back at the evolution of our campaigns at the Visit Winston-Salem, and I think that'll be good information for a base for our committee to start with this year. So that'll be March 11th from 2 to 4. And of course, I believe like any of our committees, all board members are invited and welcome to join us, and that will be a Zoom meeting this go around. Also on that agenda, we will discuss the status of the Arts and Events Marketing Assistance Program, as we call REMA. And for new folks, you'll be learning more about that March 11th, but essentially a grant program that the TDA uses to support on an application basis, events that organizations in the community have applied to us for financial support for their events. And in the current atmosphere with COVID and whatnot, we've put a pause on that program. And so March 11th, we'll kind of be discussing where that is and where that might be going with that program. And that will be the basic idea of our committee. So it's a meeting on March 11th. So as you can tell, that'll be a very busy meeting. And then we'll start looking towards scheduling a May meeting of the committee as well, which perhaps will end up being a hybrid meeting or whatnot to move forward with the business of the committee. Anything, Marquita, you want to add to that?
No, Lou, I think you touched on everything. I will tell the marketing committee that Ceci will be sending out a virtual invite and link to that too. And just let me know if there's a scheduling conflict that you have, and we can get to you just before and after the meeting with some minutes as well and bring you up to speed. And you should be getting that invite probably this afternoon, if not first thing in the morning.
Maybe also, Marquita, to remind everybody, at the last board meeting, we talked about weight lifted, spirits lifted, and just where that is in the picture of things.
Sure. It is in full rollout. The campaign, again, is it's the new campaign that is in sync with where the consumer and the customer and the audience is right now, who is pandemic fatigue, both being at home, working from home, doing Zoom calls as we're doing right now. And again, we're rolling that out. We have sent ad executions to our state magazine, which is the primary ad fulfillment. The digital marketing and targeted marketing campaign rolls out March 1st, so in a week and a half. So it's all full bore. Social media will start complementing that as well. So again, it's emerging now. Placements have been made, and then a full force integrated effort begins really March 1st in earnest. So again, we hope that carries us for as long as it needs to carry us, quite frankly. If anybody would like to have another orientation on that, I'd be happy to share that. We did get a chance to share this with the county commissioners last week. And again, since their funding helped us make this possible, we wanted to share and bring them up to date on how we arrived at the campaign concept, and then the actual execution where the dollars are actually being invested as well. So I think it was well received. We certainly appreciated the opportunity to share with them what they made possible. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Any questions? Before I move any further, I do want to touch upon some of the finances. I know Mr. Fulton, I believe Paul's on the call. And Paul, would you want to give an update as it relates to the audit update for 2020? And I believe we may have an action item regarding the audit for 21. Paul?
Yes, I will. We have completed the audit. It was accepted by the State Treasurer's Office. I have it in a digital form, and I'll get it out to the board. We recontracted with the same auditor we had before. So you've got 3 years that are very solid by year, and I'll have that contract to you for I guess, is that the April meeting, John? So we're in good shape there. They came back at a 2% increase a year, so we thought that was very reasonable.
You don't see a need to, we don't need to do that any sooner. I think April.
No, we don't. They'll start working probably May, so we'll be fine with that.
Perfect.
Anything else?
No, if there are any questions, I'm here to answer them.
I have a question on tax receipt collections. Are we pacing well?
I would say yes, but not a strong yes. How's that?
Okay.
There's not a lot to collect.
Understand. I just, I want to make sure we're on the right pace because, even though the numbers aren't where we need to be, as long as people are current, that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to get down to is having a plan for next year, whereas things open up, you can appropriate more occupancy tax and put money to work.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be fairly easy to come up with a plan that Rich can grow with when the time comes, because I am optimistic that we'll slowly start moving up.
That's the hope. I appreciate your positive outlook, Mr. Fulton.
Try. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. With that said, then probably timing is right. Ceci, could you just move on up next slide? The Smith Travel, we haven't gotten February's numbers yet, but no big surprises there. This is what we wanted to take a look at. You can go beyond Smith Travel. Go to the next slide, Ceci. Occupancy tax collections. These are actuals that I'd like to share with the board. Right now, you can see how the bed tax is coming in. It is coming in roughly 50% of where we were a year ago. These numbers are, relatively speaking, within what we were forecasting early on. The next slide really gives you a better indication of what's going on with our budget. Ceci, can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, this is showing you out, including what we are projecting or forecasting for January, along with the grant funds that we've received. But right now, you can see we have actually put money into the fund balance. We're spending roughly and averaging about $160,000 a month. At that pace, we'll probably spend close to $2 million this year. I believe our forecast of $2.2 million in tax revenues will be fairly accurate. So I think we will end the year actually putting money into the fund balance, not using any of the $290,000. It's way early, obviously, to tell you that that's what's definitely going to happen, but from at least an early forecast, and as Paul has indicated in the past, we're into January and February, so these are the rough months for sure. So, and we'll see how things shake out. We've had a couple groups cancel for the spring. Most have not. I do believe some of those groups will in fact show. Granted, they're not going to be what we would have expected them to be in the past. But right now, even a hybrid meeting of 30% of what they've been in the past, it's 30% more than what we had last spring. If you remember, we really last spring had no business coming in. But I think we will end the year spending less than we had forecast, and actually putting money into the fund balance. So I'm hoping that we'll have a good base to start to build a budget for 22. We're looking at doing a March Finance Committee meeting. We could share that date with the committee at the end of this meeting, where I think we'll definitely know what January and February looks like at that point, and probably a good forecast for March. So it will give us a chance to start building what we think would be an appropriate budget for 22. Okay. Next slide, Ceci. Only other couple of comments I wanted to make, and I'll turn it over to Christian. Marquita's already mentioned the Forsyth County Commissioners briefing. Marquita and I virtually met with the commissioners last week and did an update on the whole campaign that we're rolling out, in large part thanks to their grant to us. And I think that was well received by the commissioners. I also want the board to know that the partnership, Downtown Winston-Salem Partnership, has taken up and is starting to put together an initiative. We're calling it a reopening or a comeback initiative for downtown. That's just a working title. The goal is to put together a series of events starting in the spring with the weather getting obviously better, bringing back the streetery that went fairly well for downtown, including an uplifted gallery hop, the summer music festival. How can we, if you will, holistically link all of these smaller events and enhance the marketing for those to try to get more people coming downtown? And obviously in a safe and socially distanced way. So we are working with the partnership on that. There's been an early meeting about a week ago on that. And I just wanted the board to be aware of that initiative, that we'll be involved in it, and we'll keep the board, and at the point that it may be something that we may want to discuss in more detail with the marketing committee, if they seem the partnership has, if you will, reached out to us to some extent about how we could help them market and promote it. I know it may not necessarily fill rooms, but I think in concert with what we're doing to try to fill hotel rooms, it may be a good initiative for us to be pretty aggressively involved. Marquis and I are doing a Zoom meeting tomorrow with Jason Thiel to brief him. The committee had seemed interested in hearing and seeing the weight lifted, spirits lifted campaign. There may be a way to use or leverage some of what we're doing from a marketing standpoint to get people locally who feel the same thing as any other consumer, weight lifted, and getting them back downtown to, going to our restaurants and our taverns and retail outlets. So as you've heard me say over the last several years, our downtown is our greatest asset. So whatever we can do, even from a local perspective, to get, and if you will, rebuild and get our economy in downtown Winston-Salem robust again, is only going to benefit the convention and tourist market as well. So those are some things that we're working on. We may hand that one that I just mentioned off to the marketing committee as we progress, if that's okay with Chairman Baldwin. But with that said, anyone have any questions for me? And otherwise I'm going to turn it over to Christian to do an update on what's going on the sales side and sports side. Sports are definitely leading us back into group business ahead of meetings, and with that said, I'll turn it over to Christian.
Thanks, Rich, and I'll just jump right into it. So if you want to go to the next slide real quick with some just some sales activities we've had since we last met. And first and foremost, we talked a little bit about the marketing campaign. So the We've Got You Covered campaign, which was targeting our convention planners, really getting positive feedback from the direct mail piece that we sent out recently, mostly through LinkedIn messages from clients. As you know, we're constantly in contact with clients, hearing what their organizations are doing and kind of what their future plans are, but got some positive feedback on that campaign, so it's been well received. We've also kind of shared what we're doing with the Got You Covered campaign and the safety protocols that are going on at the Benton at a virtual meeting that we participated in with the Lunch with Leaders that the Chamber does. And then we continue to do virtual meetings with our association groups. We just wrapped up doing a MPI Carolinas chapter meeting last month, and we'll be preparing to go to the Association of Executives North Carolina virtual winter conference next week. So we're looking forward to that. And then we've met with the National Black Theater Festival Board with North Carolina Black Repertory Company to kind of talk about their plans for 21. I'm certainly excited that they're planning on moving forward with the festival. Obviously, it'll have a different look, and there's still some details that will be worked out, but there's certainly a lot of interest. And Rich and I have talked about this a little bit too with the festival. That's kind of a unique blend of that leisure market that we've seen all that research in the past, that the leisure market coming back first. The festival kind of attracts that leisure group. It kind of mixes a little bit, like Rich said, with the sports as well, where you get a little bit of group business coming in, even though it's got a leisure component to it as well, for folks enjoying the festival. So those are all positive signs as we kind of look ahead. Did want to share some new statistics with you that we just got back, and we talk about relationships all the time and staying in contact with individuals and why we do what we do. But Helms Briscoe shared our updates with us, and this is what Forsyth County Hotels did in 2019 versus 2020. So you can see even during the pandemic, we still almost generated 3,200 room nights that Helms Briscoe reps placed in Forsyth County Hotels, compared to just under 6,000 in 2019. As you know, we have a preferred partnership with Helms Briscoe. That's certainly something that that continues. And again, those are independent planners that kind of contract and work through with Helms Briscoe. So we continue to stay in contact with them about opportunities. And just as recently as this week, I know that Helms Briscoe put some storm rooms into Forsyth County as it relates to energy crews coming in to address the ice storm that we experienced over the weekend. So it's a great partnership that we have with them, and certainly look forward to continuing that in the future. But to touch a little bit on what Rich had mentioned earlier with trends and kind of what we're seeing, sports is starting to come back this quarter. It's very positive. You know, just this month, we've got the Camel City Elite Indoor Track and Field event taking place at JDL. We've got some hockey going on at the Annex next weekend. So we're starting to see some of those teams come back. Obviously, when you do those indoor events, you're not really getting spectators, but you are getting the participants that are coming in to compete. Next month, we have a baseball tournament that's going on in Kernersville, another hockey tournament, and then archery that's coming in as well in March. So you are seeing first quarter business come in. Obviously, the outdoor stuff brings in larger teams, in some cases larger participants, and maybe in some cases even more spectators, but those are all positive signs. Also, some positive news as we look ahead is that the RISE facility that's being built, again, this is a multi-court, multi-purpose facility that we'll have built just right next to the Truist Sports Park, right next to the Yadkin River. They are on pace to open up in June. Very excited about that. We obviously are working closely in marketing that facility. Bonnie Bernard, our sports sales manager, has worked with the general manager there, Lane, on some future events and some future proposals. And Lane has shared with us as well that he is booked out with a June opening. He is booked for over 75 weekends moving forward once they open. So they're booked up really into fall of 2022, which is fantastic. And obviously he's got some ability to adjust those if we're able to bring in some national regional groups and shift some of the smaller tournaments to different dates, but that's very positive. In terms of what we're seeing, we do have convention business on the books in April. I know I talked through the sports a little bit, but we have convention business on the books in April. It's smaller, but as of right now, they're still planning on moving forward. May looks very strong. What we're seeing is the national groups that we had planned to come this year, some of them are shifting dates. In some cases, they may be shifting, as an example, CALIA, which is a conference that we worked on with the Winston-Salem Police Department to bring here for July of 21. Because of everything going on as a national conference, they've decided to shift to their next open date. So they are looking at 24. But we've had other groups such as the Artist Thrive Summit, which is something that we worked on with the Arts Council that's scheduled to come in July. They are actually shifting their dates to later in 21 and coming at the end of September. And just, again, doing more of a hybrid model and really focused more on regional, figuring that folks nationally will probably log on virtually easier, but folks that are in driving distance will probably come to Winston-Salem for that conference at the end of September. Our state groups are moving forward for the most part with their plans, and it's certainly some sort of hybrid model with attendance. But as Rich mentioned, any percentage of those visitors coming here to Winston-Salem is better than the percentage we've had last year. So that's certainly positive. But I did also want to share some other positive news that we received. We've actually had some groups that weren't planning on coming to Winston-Salem at all, like the North Carolina Recreation and Parks Association. They were scheduled to meet with South Carolina and do a kind of every couple of years, they collaborate on a convention together. But because of COVID, they have actually decided to continue doing a separate convention this year. So North Carolina Recreation and Parks decided to come to Winston-Salem. They're currently working with the Marriott and the Benton to bring a new conference here to this fall to Winston-Salem. So certainly excited about that. And then we have another group that just working through just this morning. It's not even on this slide, but American Public Water Works is an association that had been here, was booked for here several years ago and ended up having to cancel because they'd outgrown our space. And now with kind of this hybrid format, they're actually looking at rebooking in Winston-Salem and coming this fall to Winston-Salem as well in 21, because the hybrid actually works. They can have the attendees stay here in Winston-Salem, and then the larger attendance for those will be able to log in virtually. So those are two examples of new business that's coming on the books this fall that obviously wasn't there before, and opportunities it's created as we kind of recover from the pandemic. So those are all positive signs. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Thanks, Christian. I know your efforts and your challenges are large, and I appreciate you keeping your chin up and keeping digging, because I know it's not what you envision the sales and convention effort to be. So thank you.
It's our pleasure.
John, can I just make, let me just make one comment, and I think it really came through in Christian's conversation. Everything's changing. You know, our universe is probably has shrunk in terms of the size of the meetings that's coming, but yet some national stuff is also shrinking that may allow us to actually accommodate them now. So it's ever changing, and I think the key for us is, and what Christian and the team is doing, is just wherever we have an opportunity to do a virtual meeting, Zoom meetings with customers and hear what they have to say. That's really what it's about. And I think we're going to, coming out of this, the Helms-Briscoe, the third-party planners, are going to be vital for our relationship in terms of driving more business back here, because they're going to control more and more business as I think as time goes by, and as we get out of the pandemic, you're going to see more third-party planners, I think, getting a larger piece of the meeting planning pie, and I think we've positioned ourselves well with that at this point. So I think we're positioned fairly well as we come out of it, but understanding it is going to be a very slow recovery.
Yeah, just for those non-hoteliers in the group, that Helms-Briscoe thing is an interesting concept, because they bring great business and great leads and have great resources. It does put a financial burden on the hotel to pay commissions. Yes. So it is a positive in volume. It is an expense side. One of the line items, expenses for the hotel crews. So, yep. But we need everybody we can bringing business to us.
That's our report. That's the staff's report, Mr. Chairman.
Great. We've already knocked out the marketing side. You know, I don't really have anything else. I'm proud of the effort that Visit Winston-Salem puts in, and these, as Rich says, they're different, they're new, it's changing, and to be able to keep up with that takes a lot of energy and focus and energy. So Rich and Jennifer and Christian and Marquita, keep up the good work. Does anybody else have anything to share for the cause?
Ceci, you want to go to that last screen just so everyone can see some tentative dates as well?
Rich, you don't want to talk about your article in the newspaper, do you?
No, I'd rather not.
Okay. Yeah, so these look, as Lou said, March 11th for the marketing committee. We've got a tentative schedule for March 24th for the finance committee. We just need to check everybody's attendance. And then our hope is to be April 21st at the Benton for a hybrid meeting. And as Lou said, finance committee meeting, marketing committee meeting. Ceci, make sure you get the invite out to everybody. Everybody's welcome to join. But we hope to see everybody with a quorum back in April. Should have a good handle on how the year's going to end and start formulating our plans for an exciting 2022. Without anything else, once again, Kelly, welcome aboard. You guys all get 20 minutes back to your day. I hope everybody can use the 20 minutes for productive work. Other than that, I adjourn the February meeting of the TDA. Y'all have a wonderful day and stay safe tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you.